Behind these gates, in the center of Addis Ababa, stands a palace that most of the world has never seen. This was once the home of Emperor Haile Selassie, the last emperor of Ethiopia. For decades, these rooms, gardens, royal vehicles, and personal artifacts remained largely hidden from the public. But today, the palace has been restored and opened as a museum, giving us a rare look at Ethiopia's imperial history and at how architecture, art, and design were used to communicate power. Today, I'm taking you inside Ethiopia's national palace. Before you even see the palace itself, the entrance sets the tone. The tall iron gates, stone pillars, sculpted lions, and imperial emblems make it clear that this was never designed to feel like an ordinary residence. It was meant to establish authority before a guest even entered the property. Even here at the entrance, the palace begins telling you who occupied this space and what that position represented. The National Palace is also known as the Jubilee Palace. It was completed in 1955 to mark the Silver Jubilee of Emperor Haile Selassie, 25 years after his coronation. Although its purpose was political and ceremonial, it was also a home. That combination is what makes the property so fascinating. It had to function as a private residence, an office of state, and a stage where Ethiopia presented itself to foreign leaders. One of the first major displays is the palace's collection of official automobiles. These cars were more than transportation. They were part of the public image of the monarchy. Their long bodies, chrome details, dark finishes, and formal proportions were designed to announce the arrival of someone important. And inside this glass-filled showroom, the cars almost become pieces of architecture themselves. Notice how the building uses natural light and open space to frame each vehicle. There's very little visual clutter, so your attention stays on the shape, craftsmanship, and presence of the cars. This is one of my favorite parts of the property because it shows how luxury changes over time. Technology changes, style changes, but proportion, craftsmanship, and presence never really go out of style. Then the main palace comes into view. The first thing that stood out to me was its symmetry. The National Palace combines neoclassical design with Art Deco influence. You can see that in its tall columns, balanced facade, strong vertical lines, decorative reliefs, and controlled geometry. There is grandeur here, but it's not overly decorated in my opinion. Instead of relying on countless ornaments, the palace creates its presence through scale, repetition, and balance. I felt like the palm trees really softened the formal architecture and gave the exterior an almost cinematic quality. but I feel like the building itself remained the visual authority over the grounds. And from the front, the design became even more imposing. You had four monumental columns rising above the main entrance, which drew my eye upward toward the imperial emblem and the two lions positioned at the roofline. The columns created a sense of permanence, almost as if the building is meant to stand outside of time. This is not luxury expressed through excess. It is luxury expressed through materials, scale, symbolism, and access. And for someone interested in real estate and architecture like myself, that is an important distinction. I feel like the most memorable buildings do more than just look expensive. They communicate an identity. At the entrance, sculpted guardians stood beside the palace doors. I felt like their spears, shields, clothing, and posture connected the building to Ethiopia's warrior tradition. I felt like these details kept the palace from feeling like a European building simply placed in Africa. The overall form may use neoclassical ideas, but the symbols give it a clear Ethiopian identity. You could even look closely at the doorway behind the statue. The geometric gold panels feel distinctly Art Deco, while the sculpted line above the door returns us to the imperial symbolism introduced at the front gates. That mixture is what makes the architecture interesting. European design language, Ethiopian symbols, modern materials, and royal tradition all exist together in one building. Inside, the experience became much more intimate. The open galleries contained objects connected to the palace, the imperial family, state ceremonies, and Ethiopia's relationships with the outer world. The objects weren't simply decorative. Many were used to represent the country during meetings, ceremonies, and diplomatic exchanges. So as we walked through the galleries, we began to understand that a palace is much more than a beautiful home. It is a working symbol of the nation. Everything from the architecture to the furniture, clothing, gifts, and artwork help to create an image of leadership. The museum's presentation was modern and restrained. Glass cases, neutral walls, and focused lighting allowed each artifact to stand on its own. It also prevented the interior from competing with the objects it was designed to preserve. At the center of the collection were the imperial thrones and ceremonial garments. This display brought together the different tools used to create a royal image. The gold finishes communicated wealth and authority. The elevated seats established hierarchy. The garments created a recognizable public identity. Even the ceremonial umbrellas carried meaning beyond their practical use. The symmetry of the display is also important. We had two thrones anchoring the center, with the garments rising behind them and smaller artifacts positioned on each side. It almost felt like a room preserved in the middle of a ceremony. Stepping back outside reveals another important part of the palace's design: its position within Addis Ababa. The grounds felt green, private, and separated from the movement of the city, but the skyline remains visible in the distance. That created an interesting relationship between old and new Ethiopia. In the foreground, you had an imperial palace tied to the country's monarchy. But beyond it, you see the towers and modern development of a capital city that continues to change to this day. The palace is no longer hidden completely from public view, but it still feels removed from everyday life. That sense of separation is part of its power. Great estates are rarely defined by the building alone. The approach, views, gardens, distance from the road, and transition from public to private space are all part of the architecture. One of the most unexpected sights on the grounds was this leopard. So big cats have long carried symbolic meaning in royal courts around the world. They represent strength, control, rarity, and danger. Here, the animal created an unusual connection between Ethiopia's natural heritage and the imperial setting surrounding it. It is also one of those moments that reminded me that this is not a conventional museum. The experience moved between architecture, politics, religion, art, nature, and the personal world of the people who once lived here. As I approached the end of the tour, the visual language began to shift again. Here, religious paintings and symbols showed the close historical relationship between the Ethiopian monarchy and the Ethiopian Orthodox Christian faith. The room is framed by images of Christ, the Virgin Mary, saints, angels, and the cross. Outside, the tour ends among the gardens and fountains. Water brings movement to an otherwise formal landscape. It reflects the sky, softens the surrounding stone, and gives the grounds a calmer atmosphere. The long lines of pools also extended the architecture into the landscape. So your eyes travel from the fountain, along the water, through the statues, and toward the city beyond the palace walls. After seeing the thrones, vehicles, symbols, and ceremonial spaces, the gardens offered a moment to step back and consider the larger story. The National Palace is beautiful, but its importance goes far beyond beauty. It is a building shaped by monarchy, faith, diplomacy, political change, and Ethiopia's relationship with the wider world. If you enjoyed this look inside Ethiopia's National Palace, be sure to subscribe to Styled and Clothes for more luxury homes, architecture, and travel from around the world.